Okay, we are back. I'm Harvey Hubbell, and this is Show and Tell. And you're not Jason Bourne, but what's your name and what do you do again?
Jason Borges, Executive Director, Literacy and Academic Intervention Services in New York City Public Schools.
And that's a big place, New York City Public School. That's
Yep.
pretty cool. So when you said when you were a kid, Mrs. Carboni was your teacher.
Yeah, second grade.
Wait, was that is that the Secretary of Education's wife? No, it's not.
No.
All right. I thought all you big like guys like they're like some Freemasons meeting, Illuminati kind of education or something. I didn't know what you guys had going on at the Connecticut stuff. All right. So you're a regular guy, just like the rest of us. That's good to know.
Right.
Um, but I like all this stuff because you and I have talked about you and your wife coming up to the farm, and I didn't know you were like you're into biology and you're an outdoor guide and all of that wonderful stuff, and that's cool. It gets you into the wonderful world of education. It's funny because you and I were talking about our struggles with schooling, and then we're both involved in education in a weird way. And when you were saying English literature and Irish literature, you know, that's the thing is all of a sudden while you're sitting in Bridgeport, Connecticut, on a couch or something like that, your mind is in Ireland. I mean, reading is the ability of reading is a pretty big thing. So, how many people right now in New York City aren't reading? How many people are reading? How are we making the difference? Just talk to us about what your
Mm.
life's been like since the chancellor and the mayor made their announcements.
Yeah, so what we know right now from what the data tells us is if we looked at the 2019, so, just taking the data point right before the pandemic, um, 49% of kids, according to our state ELA tests, are at the lowest okay of proficiency, and 51%. And if you were to disaggregate that data amongst, our Black and brown students, white and Asian, you would see, a huge discrepancy in terms of, proficiency. Um, so just, using that data alone kind of gives you a sense of, how many kids need support.
And it's connected on a lot of different issues. I mean, your zip code and your neighborhood. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily. And I know it's not necessarily your skin color, but it's your neighborhood and the
Yep.
services that are being offered there. So, literally, we are our brother's keepers. I mean, the world. I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm an idealist. I don't know if the world I want to live in. We don't have as many people incarcerated who can't read, and they're not paying taxes, and you're paying taxes on their clothing and their toothpaste and their electricity and their barbed wire fences and all that stuff. So it costs us to incarcerate people uh, more than it costs us to educate people. And if they're educated, they're paying taxes and they're curing cancer and they're doing other things that are useful and good to society if you want to believe that kind of stuff because I'm an idealist, so I do. And I'm a realist too. So,
Yeah.
okay, so what's your average day like? You wake up and then what happens? I mean, you get dressed and you have coffee, but after that, do you drink coffee? Don't tell me about the coffee.
Oh yeah, I
You
do.
you
I
do
do.
you drink coffee?
I
Uh,
drink a lot of coffee, but
that,
yeah.
that's good. Then do you work from home or do you tour schools? What happens?
Well, so the weeks kind of shift, but a lot of times what will happen is, Mondays and Fridays, the bookends of the week, it's a lot of meetings, meetings with my team, checking in with my team. I have a literacy K-12 team, and then I also have an academic intervention services team. So my senior directors who lead both of those teams, I check in with them, bookend of the week, like Mondays, Fridays, and then have all sorts of meetings, whether it's with certain external partnerships, um, uh, other departments, divisions within central administration, within New York City Public Schools. But then during the week, and this is the good stuff, is, typically on Tuesdays, myself and a handful of my team, we get to go out and do professional learning for principals. And since January, we've done 84 sessions with principals across 17 districts, where they're continuous on the science of reading. And they're just, these micro learning experiences to get folks to build a collective understanding around, the evidence base around literacy. And we're going to continue to do that going into next year. Um, and we've been also training teachers on those same types of modules as well. We've got teams that do that. So that's really exciting. So to get a sense of a week, bookends, meetings, and then during the week, it's a lot of visiting district schools, doing some professional learning, um, you know,
Ha-
getting
ha-
on a train around town.
yeah, well, it's hands on. It's resharpening the saw. It's making sure it's all good. So, in filmmaking, which is a ridiculous thing for anybody to do. The only thing I can think is more ridiculous is maybe becoming a teacher. But I mean, it's no, being a teacher is rewarding, but you're up. You have so many different things that are happening, and you have a huge set of people saying, "No, this isn't for us." But goodness gracious, you were in Manhattan. You're in all five boroughs. You watched the real heroes, the people who teach our children, which are our nation's greatest resources, um, how to read and write and do arithmetic and stuff like that, and how to think and how to get critical thinking. So the
Hmm.
the people that are in your ranks they should be paid five times as much. They should, I'm a big fan of Little House on the Prairie. You know that, and if you and I were living in there, if we were living in Walnut Creek, you'd say to me, Harvey, I think we got to go where we built the church. And I said, we're only using that thing one day a week. You said, well, we can make it into a schoolhouse, but well, how are we going to teach anybody how to read and write? And you're going to say, we're going to go into the next big city and we're going to get a teacher. And then when we get that teacher, we give them an apple. We give them
Mm.
nutrients. Just that, we're going to do anything to have those educators in our world. So that was me going off on a tangent on Little House on the Prairie. But I want to talk about these teachers and what kind of people um, are are in your. How many teachers are there teaching reading, and what kind of people are they? And they're tremendous heroes to be doing what they're doing.
I mean, I can't think off the top of my head the number of teachers we have. I mean, it's got to be hovering somewhere around 100,000 throughout the city. Um, but what I'm seeing right now is um, just so many teachers who are taking these shifts on. And here's the thing. Everything that we used to do and some of the things that like were part of balanced literacy, like I implemented as a teacher, when I was in the classroom, as well. And everything was like very well intentioned, but I think what's going on now is that teachers, particularly elementary, I'll just speak of for right now because we've been supporting them so much of late, that they want to prevent negative reading outcomes, right? They really want to hone in on their skills and craft to be able to best support all kids, right? Into becoming at, what I say the lowest okay of proficiency and beyond, right? To get them the foundations that they need so that they can take off upper elementary into middle school, right? As they're getting into, you know, um, critical discourse within the discipline across disciplines, right? And then being able to, be better writers and speakers and so forth. Um, but that's what's going on right now. And a lot of teachers are I'm just amazed at their willingness to take change on and uh, being hungry for it.
Well, I think it's the thing with the science of reading. If you and I went into the widget, factories, and we were making a widget business, I'm like, come on, Jason, join me in the widget business. And after you're working with me for a while, you're saying, like, like only a third of your widgets are working. Only a third of your widgets are up to our standard. You're going to make me change my factory, or you're going to say, this is crazy. I can't, if you can't make me change the factory. So the thing with the science of reading now, which is a body of research, um, and as more people are talking about this and more educators are doing this, they can see their goals. It's not teaching kids to the test. It's, can the kid read the book? Does the kid know what's going on? Is there comprehension in there? So this is a really interesting. This is a really interesting thing. And I was just thinking, when you're talking K through 12, isn't really a teacher's, isn't it kind of like they're a relay race when they're running around? They pass the bar to the next person, and then that person runs and then passes the bar to the next person. And each time, then, if the kid doesn't have that foundation, they're doing things like the discipline problems that you're talking about. They're acting out. They're misbehaving.
Mhm.
So, okay, if you have advice to um, any young teacher, what would it be? What's your advice to young teachers?
The way that you're feeling right now going into the profession, maintain that feeling because it's vocational, right? Obviously we're not going into it for, you know, money and so forth. It's vocational. Um, and stick to your core with that. Second is continually look for learning opportunities, be in a constant state of reflection and renewal. Um, in those first 2 years, they're really challenging. They're exhausting, but they're worth it. And then after you get over those first couple of years, I'd say like those 2 to 5, um, that's where you really reap the benefits of being a teacher. You get your management under control, your relational capacity with children, but then also continually seek ways in which that you can grow in your teaching within your school and your colleagues, and being collaborative, having an open door, an open mind. But when it comes to teaching literacy and particularly reading, um, continue like read, research, keep up in those, the learning options that you have, getting coaching, any of those kinds of supports, because um, it's that's how you really hone your craft and be able to develop those skills. And the big goal is it's like if you really want to get good at teaching reading and being able to differentiate or provide small group instruction, which is what I see as the most challenging aspect of being a classroom teacher, and that I see in schools continually. Um, you have to think diagnostically and prescriptively. If you get to know the research and put it to practice, the more you're going to be able to meet unique needs of students.
Wow, that's beautiful. We could just cut that into its own little. I love that. That is great. That's great. Okay, now, all right. I love people who are educators that are helping. As I said, our nation's greatest resources. Uh, there's a lot of misunderstanding, and I might have been wrong. I might have to realize that I was wrong on some of my decisions. But if you could say anything to decision makers, policy makers, and I don't know who the policymaker is. I don't know if it's a congressman, if it's an elected official, a city councilman, a board of education person, or if it's a school superintendent or a principal. Um, but it wasn't done this way when I was a kid, and this is what the last people told me, the people I respected, when I was a kid growing up, told me, and so now all this science of science of reading malarkey, and all this stuff that's coming up. I
Mhm.
mean, what do you tell these decision makers that that really set the policy? What do you tell them, Jason?
One is this, this is not a fad. This is based off of research, a lot of interdisciplinary research over like decades, right? And that it is continually changing. That's one. The second thing is that this is going to take time. Change takes time. Um, and we have to think about sustainability, right? So one thing is that you prepare and then you implement. Okay, implementation is great. However, how are we supporting that implementation and supporting teachers, principals, particularly, and families and communities towards sustainable practices? And that's going to take time. And the last thing I will say is that it also takes budget, takes money to be able to support. You know, uh, you know, you can't have unfunded mandates, right? So have to have money that's going to and resources that are going to be able to support all these efforts for the long term.
And the thing is, it shows it does take time. I mean, Mississippi's 5, 10 years later, turning these
Mhm.
schools around 5 years later, and it takes time, and people have to be in it for the long haul. And you said a word that we're farmers out here in our spare time when we're not talking to you, and guys like you. But sustainability is just not. Everybody loves that word. It's not sustainable. The you know so it's regenerative is the thing. I mean, guys like you and I go back into the burning building where we're going involved in education. We struggled with education, and you go back in, but sharpening in the saw, the regenerativeness of creating. You guys are creating, you know, doctors, dentists, lawyers, architects, airplane pilots, firemen, cowboys, everybody. You're creating everybody. I don't know if you create cowboys. I've seen a naked cowboy in Manhattan, anyhow. So I don't know how you did in school, but the bottom line is, you guys teach people, and the whole regenerativeness is, as you said, we have decades of of research based reports. It's another thing we should do is tell our policymakers to read those same researches that we have the teachers doing. Parents, parents are other people that listen to what's going on, and they care. What would you tell parents if you could tell parents anything?
Um, to work with their schools to get more informed about the changes that are happening, right? Like, one example is like the use of assessments, right? Like going from the assessments that were used to be able to communicate where their child is, in their reading acquisition towards kinds of the assessments and data, but make it understandable for parents to get to know, where their children are. But however, to educate the schools and teachers on their children, to get to know like what they're seeing at home, right? And also like um, of everything that's positive about their children. So like teachers can understand holistically about their child. However, also like what are they noticing, you know, about their child's literacy development at home.
It's good communication,
Yes.
which is maybe something that for those of us who grew up in the 60s and the 70s, parents put the kids on the school bus, and the big yellow school bus goes and teaches them how to read. But I mean, I guess we have to invest in our kids, huh? Um, so okay, so what else? We're running out of time here. What else do you want us to know that we haven't talked about yet? What last thoughts?
Last thoughts. This is a I a moment in time where 5, 6 years ago, I didn't see this momentum coming around science of reading and the shifts that are happening across states and, of course, here in New York City, and now conversations in New York State around reform efforts. Did not see it coming, but it's incredible that it's happening. Um, I just hope that, there's still a lot of education that we have to do in communication, um, to address misconceptions um, around what the science of reading is, with everything that's going on in the media, and the access to all the information that we have. But yeah, it's an incredible time. It's an exciting time, and I'm glad to be where I am uh, at this moment.
It's the perfect storm.
It is.
It's the perfect storm. Well, I certainly appreciate your time, and I'm looking forward to you coming up to the farm, and I'm looking forward to you coming out to our next screening. And I hope you can do it and bring the wife. And
Mhm.
thank you for your time, Jason Bourne, the man of the literacy guy. All right.
Thanks, Harvey.
Thank you, boss. Much love.